What you're looking at took less than 2 weeks. But the part that should actually scare you happened overnight. Leaves that looked completely clean one evening had visible infection by the next morning. No warning, no slow buildup, just there. And the mistake that causes this isn't even the one you're worried about right now. It's coming at number 3. Once you see what causes it, you'll never water in the evening again. 5 mistakes. One of them can spread overnight and take down the whole plant within 2 weeks. Let's get into it. If you're growing tomatoes this month, you're already making at least one of these 5 mistakes, maybe more. And here's what nobody tells you. Most of them happen because you're trying to take good care of your plant. That's the trap with tomatoes. The instinct that feels caring is sometimes the exact thing killing them. This isn't garden folklore. Everything in this video traces back to University Extension research, Florida, Iowa State, Michigan State, Alabama, Oklahoma, actual plant pathologists who've studied why tomatoes fail, not what your neighbor swears by, what's actually happening inside your plant. We're counting down 5 mistakes. Numbers 5 and 4 cost you fruit. Number 3 can cost you the whole plant in days while you're asleep. Let's start with the one almost everyone gets wrong. Mistake number 1, inconsistent watering. You've seen this. You pull a tomato off the vine, flip it over, and there's a flat, dark, leathery patch eating into the bottom of the fruit. Blossom end rot. And the advice everywhere, every forum, every neighbor, every gardening Facebook group, tells you to add calcium. So you add calcium. And nothing changes. Here's why. Your soil almost certainly already has enough calcium in it. This was never a calcium problem. It's a calcium delivery problem. Big difference. Calcium can't move through a plant on its own. No legs. It travels exclusively dissolved in water, riding the transpiration stream from root to fruit. Water on, calcium moves. Water inconsistent, calcium stalls. And the blossom end, the tip of the fruit farthest from the stem, is the last stop on that route. Last in line. First to starve. First to collapse. It gets worse. High soil salinity, too much ammonium-based nitrogen, and high humidity all choke calcium uptake further, even when your soil test comes back perfect. So yes, you can do everything else right and still get blossom end rot, purely because your watering swings between soaked and bone dry. The advice to just add calcium isn't wrong because calcium doesn't matter. It's wrong because it treats the wrong end of the problem. You don't have a calcium shortage. You have a calcium traffic jam. Here's the actual fix, and it's simpler than the bottle of calcium spray you bought. 1 inch of water once a week. 1 deep soak, not 7 small ones. Wet the soil 6 to 10 inches down, deep enough that your roots have a reason to grow down instead of staying shallow and desperate near the surface. Never water on a light daily sprinkle. It feels responsible. It's the exact habit causing the rot. Lay 2 to 4 inches of mulch around the base. It holds the moisture between soaks so your plant isn't lurching between extremes. Before you water again, push 1 finger 2 inches into the soil. Damp? Wait. Dry. Water deep. Remember that one. Because mistake number 2 looks like the complete opposite problem. And it's the one nobody believes is a mistake until they see it happening to their own plant. Mistake number 2. Too much nitrogen. And this one stings because it doesn't look like a mistake. It looks like success. Picture the healthiest tomato plant you've ever grown. Dark green. Thick stems, leaves spilling over the cage so full you can barely see through it. You're proud of that plant. You show it to anyone who'll look, and by August, you've picked 4 tomatoes off a plant that should have given you 40. That plant isn't healthy. It's drowning in nitrogen, and nitrogen has exactly one job: grow leaves and stems. Green tissue. That's it. Flowering and fruiting run on a completely different nutrient. Phosphorus, the middle number on a fertilizer bag. Feed your plant too much nitrogen relative to phosphorus, and it keeps doing what nitrogen tells it to do. More leaves, more stems, and it keeps postponing fruit because fruit is expensive and leaves are cheap. North Carolina Cooperative Extension confirms it directly. Excess nitrogen causes flowers to drop off the plant before they ever become tomatoes. So if your plant looks incredible and gives you almost nothing, the lushness isn't the bonus, it's the diagnosis. Stop feeding your tomatoes an all-purpose, high-nitrogen fertilizer. That's the bad advice. Tomatoes need a different ratio. Switch to a tomato-specific fertilizer where the middle number, phosphorus, outweighs the first. Something close to 10-20-10. Once your first fruit hits 2 inches across, side dress with 2 to 3 tablespoons of an 8-8-8 fertilizer. Repeat every 4 to 6 weeks. Not more often, not just to be safe. You're not starving your plant, you're just stopping it from spending all its energy on leaves you didn't ask for. This one's hard to hear because the compliments you got on that beautiful plant were actually a warning. But it's nothing compared to what's at number 3. Mistake 3 doesn't cost you fruit. It can take down the entire plant, the one you've been nursing for 2 months, in under 2 weeks. And it usually happens at night. Quick thing before we get into it. If this is useful to you, subscribe now. Because what's coming next is the only mistake on this list with an actual deadline. Everything else costs you fruit. This one costs you the plant. Mistake number 3. The one from the start of this video. The one that turns a 6-foot fruit-covered plant into a brown, brittle skeleton in less than 2 weeks. The disease is called late blight, Phytophthora. Infestans, if you want the name. And if that name feels weirdly historical, it's because it is. This is the same water mold responsible for the Irish potato famine in the 1840s. It didn't go extinct. It's still here. And University of Florida research confirms it can destroy a fully healthy tomato plant within days. Days, not weeks. The spores are very likely already sitting in your soil right now, dormant. Iowa State University confirms exactly how they spread. Wet leaves and splash off the soil. And here's the part that's hard to hear. The mistake that wakes them up is something almost every gardener does on purpose, because it feels caring, watering overhead in the evening with a hose or a sprinkler. Your grandmother did it. Everyone does it. It's the single most natural, well-intentioned habit in gardening. It's also the most dangerous one in this entire video. Here's why. When you water overhead at night, you fling soil-borne spores up onto your lowest leaves. Then the sun goes down. Those wet leaves sit damp, untouched, for 8, 9, 10 hours straight. No sun, no air movement, no drying. That's not watering, that's building a greenhouse for the exact pathogen you're trying to avoid. And late blight doesn't play by the rules of other tomato diseases. It doesn't politely start at the bottom and crawl up like most blights do. It hits anywhere on the plant. Stems turn brown, shrivel, and go brittle within days. A 6-foot plant loaded with green fruit can collapse into that brown skeleton in under 2 weeks. That's not an exaggeration. That's the time lapse you just watched. So you need to know the difference because the 3 lookalikes get confused constantly. Early blight, dark brown spots with concentric rings, like a bullseye, starting on the lower leaves. Septoria, leaf spot, small spots, pale gray centers, dark edges. Late blight, irregular water-soaked patches anywhere on the plant, with white fuzzy growth on the undersides of leaves on humid mornings. If you see late blight, you're racing a clock, not exaggerating. A clock. Here's the fix, and you need to act on this one immediately, not this weekend. Stop all overhead watering. Completely. No exceptions. Water at the base of the plant only. Switch to drip irrigation or a soaker hose if you can. Water in the morning, never the evening. The sun dries any splash within the hour. Evening watering has no sun left to do that job. Strip every leaf within 6 to 8 inches of the ground. That gap is your buffer zone. Wipe your shears with 70% rubbing alcohol between every single plant. Spores travel on blades just as easily as on water. Lay down 2 to 4 inches of mulch as a physical barrier against soil splash. And if you spot late blight on a plant, that day, not tomorrow. Bag the infected leaves and put them in the trash. not the compost pile. Compost doesn't kill this. Compost saves it for next year. Evening watering feels like love. It's the single most dangerous habit in this entire video. Fix it tonight, not next week. Mistake number 4 costs you fruit and invites the disease you just learned about. Wrong pruning. Somewhere online, you were told to remove every sucker the second you see it. Rip them all off. Keep it clean. Here's where that advice actually comes from. Commercial greenhouse growers training single-stem vines 16 to 20 feet tall indoors in completely controlled conditions. That's not your backyard. And following that advice in your backyard is costing you tomatoes. Every sucker you remove is a future stem with its own flower clusters and its own fruit. Rip them all off, and you've just amputated half your harvest before it existed. But, and this matters just as much, a dense, unpruned canopy traps humidity against the leaves for hours. That trapped humidity is the open door for everything you just learned about in mistake 3. So which is right? Neither extreme. The truth lives in the rules, not the internet shortcut. Michigan State University confirms removing suckers gets you bigger fruit, earlier ripening, and fewer disease problems. But only on indeterminate varieties. Determinate plants are a different animal entirely. Never prune determinate varieties beyond basic ground-level cleanup. Every cut on a determinate plant permanently reduces your yield. Permanently. Not slows it down. Reduces it for good. For indeterminate varieties, strip leaves and suckers from the bottom 6 to 12 inches of stem. That creates an air gap, stopping soil-borne spores from splashing up onto the plant. Remove suckers when they're 1 to 2 inches long, pinched with your fingers in the facade between the stem and the branch. Wipe your fingers with alcohol between plants. Same rule as the shears. Missed a week and the sucker's already oversized? Don't rip the whole thing off. That shocks the plant. Use what's called the Missouri pruning method instead. Clip just the growing tip, leave the bottom 2 sets of leaves. That stops it from getting bigger, and those leaves still shade the fruit. One more warning, because this mistake has a flip side. In hot climates, don't over-prune. Strip too many leaves and you expose the fruit to direct sun, which causes sun scald, pale, leathery patches that rot. University of Georgia Extension warns about this specifically. Prune for airflow, not a buzz cut. Mistake number 5 is the quiet one, the one where you did everything right and your plant still stops producing. Consistent watering, low nitrogen, watering at the base in the morning, pruned for airflow, every box checked, and in late June, your plant just stops. Flowers turn yellow, dry up, and drop off without ever becoming a tomato. Here's the part you need to hear. It's not you. It's the thermostat. Tomato pollen only survives inside a specific temperature window. Once daytime temperatures climb past 90 degrees Fahrenheit and nights stay above 72 degrees Fahrenheit, the pollen goes tacky and dead. The flower physically cannot set fruit. Doesn't matter how healthy the plant is underneath it. So the plant aborts the flower and drops it. Self-preservation, not failure. Alabama Cooperative Extension puts the threshold even lower. Above 85 degrees Fahrenheit daytime, above 72 degrees Fahrenheit nighttime. Oklahoma State puts the daytime ceiling around 92 degrees Fahrenheit. University of Illinois confirms blossom drop once days run above 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Different numbers, same conclusion. This is a heat problem, not a feeding problem, not a soil problem. And here's the trap. Feeding the plant more does nothing. Zero. You can't fertilize your way around a thermostat. The fix. Install 30 to 40% shade cloth during the hottest part of the day. Purdue University Extension recommends a 30 to 50% range. Hang it on. The west and south-facing side raised on stakes so air still moves underneath. You're not blocking the sun. You're taking the edge off the worst afternoon heat. Keep watering rock steady through this. A heat-stressed plant that also dries out gives up completely. If you're planting new, look for heat-tolerant varieties. bred specifically in the 1990s for southern summers, available through Burpee or Park Seed. Once you understand blossom drop is just temperature, something shifts. You stop blaming yourself. You stop overfeeding a plant that was never hungry. You wait. Your plant will set fruit again the moment nights cool back below 72 degrees Fahrenheit. It's patience, not panic. 5 mistakes. 3 of them you're probably making while trying to do right by your plant. That's tomatoes for you. The caring instinct and the correct instinct aren't always the same thing. Watering consistency, nitrogen restraint, morning base watering, never overhead at night, pruning with rules, not guesses, patience through the heat. Fix those 5, and the plant from the start of this video doesn't have to be yours. Be honest. Which one are you doing right now? Type the number in the comments. Not because I'm keeping score. Because the people who admit it are the ones who actually fix it before July. Subscribe if you want the rest of the season covered the same way. No guesswork, no garden myths, just what the research actually says.